All right, grasshoppers. It is Thursday, 2 o'clock, and I am by myself again. All by myself. Love talking to this microphone, and then you get real close. It gives you, yeah, Darth Vader sound. Then we get away from it like this. It's a different sound. So it's better to be close. That's the way we should live our life, close. Okay, like the dog that jumped on me the other day. Who's watching here? We got one viewer so far. Two of them, like doubled the size of the show. How's everybody doing? It's Thursday afternoon, beautiful day outside. I got a lot done. No, I didn't get a lot done today. It's kind of a goofing off day. So maybe we'll go with Thursday. Maybe after the show, maybe it's happy hour out on the deck. Like cranberry. Yeah, sounds like a good idea. Getting a lot done. We did 2 more podcasts yesterday. The Full Change podcast with my producer, Tom Smith. He says he's Tom Smith. I don't know if that's true or not. We did Kelly Rudy. And an interesting one was Robert Picard. So Robert Picard and I just played against each other. He had a great career, like close to 900 games played. But he actually helped me. Dougie DeVito, how you doing there, brother? See how long Dougie sticks with me now, because he's kind of been jumping ship lately, old Dougie DeVito. So Robert Picard helped me make it to the National Hockey League. I don't know if you guys have probably all seen the story, but so this first time we talked to each other was yesterday, doing a podcast. Deb, how are you doing there? You wonderful magical creature. So again, afternoon. Susan Brooks, you grasshopper, you. What's happening, you magical grasshopper? Bruce Levin from San Antonio, Texas. In your Facebook house, San Antonio, like San Antonio. We went down. I was in the Asian business. They had a USA Hockey Festival for the young kids in San Antonio. It was hot down there, man. Beautiful city, though. The river running through it there and everything, all the restaurants by the river. That was nice. So, Robert Picard, you guys know the story. So, my first game in the National Hockey League, regular season game, shot the puck in my own net up in Boston. Had not been told that I was getting had made the team yet, but was still with the team. So, the next night we played in Toronto. Robert Picard butt into me. And I'm feeling I just could not let that happen if I was going to play in the National Hockey League especially with Freddie Shero's coach. So I suckered him with the left and knocked him out cold. So, and that's again we talked about. He didn't even want to talk about it. It was funny. We were trying to get him going a little bit. He was just that happened. I didn't do anything about it, so no big deal. Oh, you sicko, my sex machine. Oh goodness. Oh, look who's here. Look who's here. He hasn't been around for a couple of days. Billy Kondratiuk. Kondratiuk. It's not a name. Throw a bunch of letters together. Good luck with that. How's everybody doing? What else is going on today? Oh, okay, so let's get to our dance challenge thing is just not going. Any suggestions at all? Or any way we could help promote it? Let's get it going. A lot of people have done the dances. I appreciate that very much. Deb, I know Lorraine's done. Susan's donated money. I know Billy Kondratiuk has. I'm trying to spell his name every day when he gets up in the morning. I had a little issue too. I'm got a zit in my nose there. How does I get sick? I'm almost 65 years old and I get a zit. What's that all about? God, man. It's been a while. Good to see you. Tim White is back. Yes. Tim White. Speaking of somebody, remember Larry Podwell was it Podwell? Where did he disappear to? Tug a beer contest. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. Who let the dogs out? Danny Erickson. They're going for Tom's 90. Yes. Oh man, did I lose my temper yesterday? Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? The dog jumped up on my testicles at the beach. But I do. Okay, I got to give myself credit here. That Lorraine, how are you doing? Good to see you. You did your dance. You were one of the first ones to do dance. Good job. Again, so now you can either dance to draw attention to the Garden of Dreams Foundation from Madison Square Garden, or you can donate, or you could do both if you wanted to, or you could you can send in a song that I have to dance to. And see, the whole idea is to draw attention to the Garden of Dreams and raise as much money as possible. So, well, it was kind of a small dog. It wasn't really. But it's more, oh God, so and there's this young couple, look like he probably has one of those belts with a whale on it and a pig shirt with the collar turned up. And he was, they're like, oh, like they didn't apologize. And it wasn't like they made it. And dog, I said, put the dog in a leash. What's in the car? Oh my God. Follow the rules. Like we all just follow the rules. Don't think so. That's another thing when you're driving too. Like sometimes people want to be nice. like at stop signs or whatever, and kind of go against the rules. Like I figured they would do a favor for somebody else. Would you rather everybody just follow the rules? Everybody follows the rules, and we'll be fine. There won't be any confusion. Yes, I saw that. Player safety. Susan Brooks on top of things as usual, as per usual. Opinion of player safety: smash head, hitter boards causing a concussion, 0 games. Spitting, 3 games. D'Angelo sparing the family, 2 games. That is a tough job. I don't think you ever get anybody to agree on suspensions. The concussion, I didn't see that one. Tell me who that was. I don't know. The spitting, the 3 games. Well, that precedent was set. Somebody else had spit on somebody a few years ago, and that got 3 games. So that was pretty much an automatic. D'Angelo, man, he finds a way to get in trouble, doesn't he? But again, with that, the whole player safety thing, part of it is I'd like to sit in the room and hear the discussions they have. Remember when was it Brendan Shanahan came up with the video? They still do the videos. I don't know if they do or not. Watson smashed Mont. Oh, I didn't see that, Susan. And get nothing for it. Well, I'll take a look at that and see what they said. Jessica Danahy, what's happening, you magical creature? Lades is permanently banned for chucking a ladder. Oh, thank God nobody had a video. I don't think anybody did a video of it, but man, I felt like I was getting away from having temper tantrums, snapping. But I blame it on the pandemic or something. Oh, these poor people with that dog. And my grandson, the dog Maverick, the golden retriever, my son and his wife's golden retriever got snipped, got the old testes snipped off. He was not too happy. Still has that cone on his head. So, thank you very much, Susan. Yes. So Brian Berard obviously was a client of mine, and his mother Pam, fantastic human being. Just this, she's so funny. Like she got the fiery mouth. Somebody messes with her family. Like I said, I think I told the story. But I said the letter out when I first started in the agent business. Brian was a good young player. I hadn't met him yet, so I sent a letter to introduce myself. And Brian Berard's name is spelled Bryan. I spelled it Brian. Well, that was a mistake I would never make again because Pam made sure I knew. No, that's just not how it's spelled. And when she told you that, I remember that was my first interaction with her, and I got that right. Never make that mistake again. But great person. She's tons of fun, smoking cigarettes and everything. And just like I said, if you were part of her family or her, surrounding family, man, she would fight to the death for you. Anybody tried to mess with her husband, Wally, who's still alive as well, not doing too well, but he was a tough man too. Like he'd drive the motorcycle in the bar and everything, but he didn't have to do any fighting because he would do it all for him. He didn't get a chance to do any fighting. She would back up anybody. She was famous too for any parties or anything like that. She would always jump up at the table and start dancing. And she did it so often that the men at the party just knew automatically as she started heading towards the table, looked like she's going to dance. They just ran over there to hold onto the table to make sure they balanced it for her. So that was funny. Actually, I brought my second wife to Bruce's wedding. Bruce Berard, Brian's brother, wedding years ago, obviously. And she jumped up on the table, and my wife was like, "What the heck is this going on?" So she was a lot of fun. Yeah, very nice, very great family. Actually, it's interesting to listen to them talk. Brian's not much of a public speaker, so he didn't get up and speak. But Bruce and Greg, the 2 brothers, and Bethany, the daughter, sister, I guess you call her. They all got up and spoke, and it was very nice. A little teary-eyed, talking about how, like, even Pam, knowing that she was, her time was coming, that she wanted to make sure everybody else was fine. Like, it's like she had to make sure everything was straight, that her husband was taken care of, the kids were all, and really made a point of, they talked a lot about how she made a point of being with the family and talking about things, the past, telling old stories and everything, so that when she was gone, then I think everybody felt like, there's no regrets that you didn't say the things you had to say. So it's fantastic to watch her in the family. Let me see. Do a podcast with the players who suffered eye injuries while playing. Nystrom, Berard, Marini came to mind. Did Nystrom have an eye injury? Is that why he ended his career? I couldn't remember that. Berard, yeah, I don't think Brian Berard doesn't like doing public stuff. He may not. I'm going to approach him about doing podcasts, but yeah, he hasn't. Like he wouldn't even get up and speak. And you understand that, you get emotional at those events, like when he's saying goodbye to his mother. So, Stahl, did he? That's right. He got hit. Yeah, that's right too. Yeah. Brian Berard, that was an interesting, I guess interesting, right? It's a long time ago now, but hi, Kathy, what's happening? So people that don't remember Brian Berard, he got hit by Marian Hossa. So Berard had been traded to Toronto. They were playing in Ottawa. Hossa was in Ottawa at the time, obviously. And the puck was kind of leaving the zone. Brian was skating up to chase it, and Hossa like kind of spun around and slap shot, and the follow through went up and hit Brian right in the eye. So I was watching the game on TV, and then Pam called. She'd gotten calls. She got it. So we all went up to Toronto, and he couldn't. His depth perception was gone. Depth perception was gone. He couldn't walk through a door. Like he had the doorway. He had to hold his hands out because he couldn't tell where the door was. Then so for him to go from that point to then come back and play in the NHL was really something. I got hit in the eye one time. One time was kind of, it was scarier. It's a scary thing more than anything. You get stitches and stuff, and a lot of times your eye is really protected. So it'd be a lot of times where sticks or pucks will come up, but your eye's in that socket, right? So they usually don't get hit right in the eye. This one, I get hit in the eye, and it's like that. 2 or 3 seconds, your eyes close, and then you think, Jesus, am I all right? That's the worst part about it. And then once you're, then you're fine. But I had to the doctors wanted me to wear a shield at the time for a few games. And it was interesting because, you see all the shields now, and it was not an accepted thing back then. In fact, one of the coaches at the time, he was a good coach too. I really liked him. He was with Ted Sayer, but this was a good guy. Reg Higgs, I think was his name. And but this time I thought he crossed the line. He said, I guess this is really going to change the way you play. Thinking that because I put the shield on, I wasn't going to be a physical player anymore, which it's irrelevant. And again, it's so accepted now. Ray Bourque was one of the first guys to wear them too, like on a regular basis. But Willie O'Ree played one blind eye. Yeah. So I think, I know I've told the story, but Berard, when he came back to play, so he played with Rangers first, then Boston, then Chicago, then Columbus. And they didn't have to, but every time he would go to a new team, they'd want to do an eye test. So he really couldn't read the chart. So we came up with a system where, like, sometimes the E's on the side, sometimes the E is upside down. So we came up with a system where he would memorize all the eye charts that were out there. And then I would say something to him like, "Oh, man, those rugby shoes, Brian," and that tell him that, the way the chart was, so he'd be able to read the chart. We kind of laughed about it. We laughed a lot about it because he really couldn't see out of that eye. So he had the detached retina. And we had Dr. Stanley Chang, I think it was Stanley Chang, in the city here. We asked around, and everybody said he was the best guy in the world for fixing detached retina, and he did. But it's still, there was so much damage to the eye that he really couldn't see that well out of it. But it was quite an experience going through all that too. Very emotional, because Brian, obviously, first overall pick in the draft, won Rookie of the Year. A great career ahead of him, supposedly, and then for that to happen, and I didn't think he'd come back and play. He missed at the end of that season and another whole season. And I asked him to come and play, but come and work with me as an agent. And that's when he said to me, "No, I think I can come back and play." So it's kind of amazing that he did. How many coaches have you had in the NHL? Miners, Shagan, Anderson, you creature, you. Okay, what do you see here? How many coaches have you had in the NHL? Okay, start off with Freddie Shero, Craig Patrick, Herb Brooks, Ted Sater, Tom Wilson, Phil Esposito, Mike Murphy, Rob Fatorik, and then I had then Tom Webster again in LA. So that's 8 different coaches in 11 seasons. They didn't last long. Remember, Clint Eastwood. Oh, did that what they do? They Tommy Lee Jones and those guys did that? That's funny. I didn't see that part. I like that movie too, and I forgot that they did that. Yeah. Let me see. You can't gain back vision once you lost from retina. Yeah, because the retina, I didn't know this. Maybe you guys did. It's kind of like the wallpaper in the back of the eye. It's like the liner in the back of the eye. And I don't know. I don't know how to explain. I really don't know if I know the function of it. But yeah, once it got detached, it kind of like folds down like it's like wallpaper, really. So they have to go in from the front and try to push it back up again. And the doctor is very honest. He said, "Listen, I'm confident I can get it back in place, but it's not going to, chances are your vision is not going to be very good." And it wasn't. So, yeah. So hold on one second here. Danny Erickson. Who was the best coach? So Herb Brooks was. I love Robbie Fatorik, and he was a great coach too. It's just that I should say it that way with Herb. I guess it's the time of my career too. It was so important for me because again, I'd had my first year, had a good season. It was I was 6 goals, 23 assists. I'm thinking, man, I'm going to be a 2-way defenseman here in the National Hockey League. And so Freddie Shero got fired, but halfway through the year, Craig Patrick took over. And so I've told this story all the time, but when Herb came in, he had different plans. He wanted me to be that defensive guy. And I really look back and like he was so smart, like how he handled my like ego and my desire to be successful as an individual, but also have the team be successful, because he knew I was going to have to kind of take a step, well, not a step back, but maybe in a different direction. Again, not be really that two-way defenseman, just be the solid defensive guy that he wanted me to be. And he made sure that if I was going to do what he asked me to do, then he rewarded me by playing in all those defensive situations. I realized, if I look back at old videos where you could just tell he knew, okay, Laidlaw's doing what I want him to do, and I've got to give him the ability to go do it, because he wants, I was motivated. I wanted to be good. I wanted to be a part of the team. So I was, my role, I knew wasn't going to be, and all the fans are going to understand what I was doing. They wouldn't even see some of the stuff I did out there, but it was good. Let me see. Do you think when Raves with Rangers, they told him not to drop the gloves as much? A few of us have been wondering this since he dropped them before and now after he was with us. I'm sure that they said to him, listen, we don't, you're like the loaded gun, and we don't really need to shoot all the time. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but his reputation was really all the Rangers needed. I mean, he had to go out and continue to prove it. And a couple of times he had to, it was a game down in Nashville. One time somebody ran it to Lindgren, and he had to go out and answer to it. So he did it. I thought he was very smart about it. He spent many years building a reputation of being that tough guy. He really didn't have to do it all the time, especially now there's not that many tough guys to fight even. So, no, he was good. And I guess it's a different situation for him now. Let me see. Well, here's a good question. So do you think that Keenan had similarities to Seider? Yes. I think Seider more had similarities to Keenan, but either way, I think Seider, he had actually worked with Keenan, and I think that's what he wanted to be. He wanted to be that kind of coach, the guy that was the master scientist, like playing these mind games, which it just was. Listen, and the sad thing is, like in Keenan's case, I thought he was a good hockey coach, and obviously his teams won. Now, teams win because they had good players, but the coach still has to do his job. Sorry, Nancy, I saw that question you had. Was Hospodar as tough as he appeared to be on the ice? Yes. And crazy too. Like he had that kind of, like they had that craziness. You think, okay, what's he going to do? He built that reputation. It was nutty out there. So it just wasn't like, it wasn't just your, like, I'm going to fight this guy. Is he going to smash me over the head? Because he did some stuff. Like one game when they cross-check Gresh in the head when Eddie was in Philly, and caused a little ruckus doing that. But so go back to Keenan and Seider though. Again, I think my feeling, I spoke to this many times, where those guys, they wanted to play these mind games and felt that by playing these mind games, that helped the team be successful. Well, the team was successful because it played well, and they still could be good coaches. All that stuff was unnecessary. And I think they did it more for their own good as coaches to build that reputation that, okay, if the team's not playing hard enough, we got to bring in Mike Keenan. He's going to straighten them out. And he did, but it was more like he's apparently he's a very nice man. Ron Duguay's become friends with him. And I just, I mean, again, my interaction with him, I told the story too, where we were playing the alumni game in Philly, the outdoor alumni game. And between the second and third period, I'd had a lot of ice time, so I was going to go and say, this has got lots of guys that haven't played that much. I don't need to play that much more. And he was standing there in the room talking to Mike Richter, and he said something to me like, I'll play whoever I effing want on defense. Get out of here, or something like that. F you it's an alumni game. I'm trying to be a nice guy. So that's the kind of stuff where, and there's other times when he was in between jobs and he was calling me up. Friends of mine were general managers in the league, and he was wanting me to make phone calls for him. So like when he needed me, he was like my buddy. He could walk down the hallway and wouldn't even say hello to me. But he needed something. So I'm not a fan. But again, Dukes is his buddy now and says that they get along great. So maybe he's changed. Oh, let me see. Hey, Tom, great to be here. Boxcar had a priest. Yes, his father. His brother was a priest. Yep. Eddie's a great guy, family guy, great father, husband, all that. But when he put on the skates, he was, he knew what he had to do. Like there was a Eddie Hospodar, Boxcar Hospodar brand, and he built it and he knew how to use it. So, I give him credit, and he took on all the heavyweights. Where was your fearless leader during the Rangers Kings playoff brawl? I was tied up with Larry Murphy, for God's sakes. I couldn't get away from him, and he never fights. I can't fight him. I know, it was embarrassing. Like everybody else is going nuts, and I'm stuck with Larry Murphy. Great player, don't get me wrong, Hall of Fame player. Just, you get a brawl like that, and he's not going to let go, and the only choice is to just knock the crap out of him. But I'm not going to fight Larry Murphy. That's embarrassing. You don't fight a guy like that. So, let me see. What is Ron Duguay doing now? Sarah Palin. Yeah, I don't know. He plays in a lot of charity games, doing a lot of traveling around, and I don't even know the status of he and Miss Palin. So maybe she got mad at him that he was using her hair care products. I don't know if that was it or not. Let me see. Yeah, that was a good story. I remember that story what Clark Gillies told. So there was the famous punch. That's really all the fight was, where Gillies broke Eddie's jaw. It was one of the worst things I've seen. He didn't knock the teeth. At least started the fight. That's funny. That's what they said, but it wasn't me that. I take credit for it, but it wasn't me that started. It was Eddie Hosmeyer. I was standing right there, and the broadcasters thought it was me that was doing the fighting, but it was actually Eddie that started the brawl. That was our big brawl then, and against the Kings, my first year in the league, the playoffs in 80-81. I don't know if Dukes has just still got a podcast. Does he still have a podcast, Duguay? I'm assuming you're talking about Duguay. He was doing the one with the new post, but I don't think he's doing that anymore. Oh, he does. Okay. Jessica confirms that he does. All right. Ira. See, Ira's trying to, he's trying to ruin me. He gives me M&Ms. Although I should back up. He bought me a very nice bottle of vodka. Grey Goose. Was it Grey Goose or a Belvedere? I can't remember which one it was. That got consumed. That was very nice, but along with it, he throws in a bag of M&Ms like to stir the pot. So that's all right. Let me see. Would Dukes go into heart failure if he discovered a vault site? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, so I used to kind of make fun of him, like, Dukes, why are you worried about how you look so much? But to his credit, like he knew what his brand was. Eddie Hosmeyer knew what his brand was on the ice. And Dukes knew what his brand was. That's oh yeah. Oh yeah, Dukes was good. Hold on 1 second here. Barry Shelley. Yeah, Dukes on for our Full Change podcast. Yeah. Yeah, he was good. Dukes was hard for you. Since he has not appeared this year. Again, I unless he's not on the post podcast anymore, unless he's got a different podcast that he's doing. He was on that one. With Larry Brooks, and what's his name? Molly? Is it Molly? Oh la la. Let me see. Yeah, I miss old time hockey. Hockey has changed. There's no question. I still think the game is fantastic now. The athletes that play they're talented athletes, finely conditioned. So I love it from that. It's different. So to even compare it to the old game, it's just nothing. The rules are different. The players are different. The equipment's different. The ice, no more red line, pass from your own net up to the other team's blue line. So yeah, it's just changed. Still, I mean, you go into the Garden for a playoff game, any big game, but a playoff game at the Garden. Oh man. Let me see. What do I think of the Kane trade? Well, it's funny to say it this way. What they're going to have to figure out is that they've almost got too much talent. Like you get 6 forwards that are really top 3 forwards. Now that's not a bad thing because especially you go a long playoff run, you're going to have injuries. You are. Our players are just going to get cold. They're not going to play well sometimes. So you need that depth that they have at the top end. Usually a lot of teams will get a lot of depth at the bottom end, like the 3rd and 4th lines and the 5th and 6th defensemen, those kind of things. But there's been times where a key player gets hurt or can't play up, maybe gets hurt but still plays. So now they've got, again, so the power play, for example. So Panarin, Zibanejad, and the guy I like so much, it's awful. It's terrible. They've Kreider. So there's the top 3 guys. Now they usually play a minute and a half. So now they've got Trocheck, Tarasenko, and Kane. I mean, I know it's moving out, but that's another 3 guys that are going to go out there and play 30 seconds. That's just not how they play. Those guys used to be the ones that play the minute and a half of the power play. But again, if you get a chance to get a Patrick Kane, you've got to do it. And he will pay off for them. They'll go into playoff, and there'll be times, big games where he'll score big goals or set up big goals, so it'll all pay off. But yeah, it's a kind of a unique thing. Most teams don't get an opportunity to have like 6 forwards at that level of players that are used to being top 3 forwards, being on that top line and going out there and all the offensive opportunities. So it's going to be a change for those guys because now they're not going to be out there. They're not going to be just jumping over the boards as soon as there's a power play, for example. So. Let me see here. James Patrick, Mr. Barry Shelley, what's happening? Loved when James Patrick used to your shows. Yes, James and I have kept in touch. Yeah, he was funny, right? Like, he's got that different sense of humor. I loved when he would, he'd get the glasses going, like he'd have his notes and everything going. He'd go back and watch the show and some of the comments, and he's good. I was really surprised. I knew he had a sense of humor, but that was excellent the way he did that stuff. He was good. Yeah, James is a good guy. That was too bad. I mean, he got in a little trouble, obviously, because he made some comments about the Winnipeg Jets. And again, we've covered this before. There were the comments that to us and the hockey world, everybody knew that this is what supposedly the truth was, that they had 2 guys in the team that weren't really great team players. And he said it. And we didn't, even when he said it, we didn't think it was a big deal. But coaching in Winnipeg, it became a big thing once people saw the show. And then it got out and put social media and everything. And he had to do some backtracking. But for me, I know it's awful. The Winnipeg Jets general manager. I know him, good guy, but I mean that's an issue. I think it was more like bad at him because why haven't you fixed the problem? If everybody knows that this is the problem, why is it not fixed? So, James Patrick, yes, he had a few years or so. Remember the show we did? It must have been so Mel had Larry Melnick had a Bloody Mary going, and his celery stick. It's celery dysfunction. Like the celery stick was limp, and it kept folding over. It was hilarious. I think Greg said he should put some Viagra in the drink to get it going. I gotta tell you, we did the Full Change podcast. We did a show with Larry Melnick. Typical Larry. He was funny. Going on his soliloquies, and he talked for about 2 or 3 minutes. And I can't remember what I'm talking about. He's like, he said, "Did I answer the question?" Let me see. Do I see Patrick being an NHL coach or sticking with Junior? That's a great question. So part of the issue is with him. So I'm 60. I'll be 65 next month. So he's probably. So I don't think he's reached 60 yet. He's had his. See, what's happened is he's had his shot at the NHL, being an assistant coach for many years with Lindy Ruff, both in Buffalo and in Dallas. So you kind of wonder, it's not even whether he's a good enough coach. You just kind of wonder, has time passed him by? I don't know. I mean, I think he's good enough. There's no question. I think the world, he's a very intelligent man, speaks well. And he even talks about it to himself. Like, I don't know if his personality is exactly like a head coach personality. He's got a great personality. But I asked him that question. Do you want to be? And he kind of answered that he felt like he used Lindy Ruff as an example that he had like that really commanding personality. Again, I think that James could do the same thing, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe he doesn't even want to. Maybe he's happy. He's living in his hometown, Winnipeg, coaching, team successful. Oh, yes. I was on Survivor. Bob Johnson. Great day for hockey, Bob. Survivor. Yeah. Oh, okay. Book update. So the original writer of the book is a fantastic guy. He just, during the pandemic, he felt like his wife was going to lose her job, so he took on way more stuff. So he just has not been able to get to it. He's very nice. I've got, after my producer, Tom Smith, is a writer as well. And so my initial writer, David Siegerman, I have no problem saying his name, great guy. He offered up to, listen, if you've got somebody else that can finish it, go ahead and do it. Because I feel, like he said, he felt bad that it's dragging on so long. So that will get done. So would I do Fear Factor? Yeah. Is that the one where they get like all the people doing all the stunts and all that kind of stuff? Is that the Fear Factor? Oh, that'd be a blast. Yeah. I'm up for any adventures now. I think I've told you. So they asked me initially to go to Latvia as an ambassador. The official term was an envoy to the State Department for the United States of America. They couldn't get a hold of me. They had the wrong email address, so they got somebody else. So now I spoke to the State Department the other day, and just try to figure out where the next event is going to be. It'll be a ball hockey thing. The idea is you go into a country and teach them hockey and show them that not all people in the U.S. are bad people. Hopefully they don't find out about the ladder throwing and the dog naked and afraid. No, that I don't get the whole point because you're naked, but maybe I would. Yeah, I don't know. You're naked, but it's not like you're. What's that got to do with the game? Being naked? I, don't know, I guess it's the danger of sleeping outside with the. Maybe some dog will come along and jump on it again. Oh man. Let me see here. Why didn't Trache? I don't. I don't know. That's a good question. You know, I think sometimes just people assume that because they're good players, that they make good coaches. But like it almost works against them. It doesn't have to be this way. But like Wayne Gretzky, for example, like for him, the game. I'm not saying it was easy, but he could just accomplish what he wanted to accomplish. Not every player is that skilled, and not every player has that mental outlook about the game too. And so I think it gets frustrating for coaches when they've been star players. Plus, usually those star players have made a lot of money, and the work involved now to be a head coach in the National Hockey League or assistant coach even. And it's long hours. They're in there a long time watching, breaking down videos and all kinds of meetings and everything. So interesting. As we did a podcast yesterday, bad players make good coaches. Well, I wouldn't. I hear what you're saying. It's not necessarily it's a bad player. It's more that they're more of a third or a grinding kind of player. Like you look at Jared Gallant, Rod Brind'Amour, those kinds of guys. So they didn't survive off their skill. They survived off their heart and determination. And that's so now you get it in the NHL level. Everybody's got good players. It's a matter to get them to play to the level that they have to play and do the things they need to do to win. So I think this is a respect issue because they can say, listen, well, Gallant did it. Brind'Amour did it. So when he talks about it, it's not somebody like a Mike Keenan never did it, never played in the NHL. Doesn't mean you can't be good. It's just that you get that advantage from being that gritty player. So when you ask your team to fight through things, block shots, whatever, you're not asking them to do something that you didn't do yourself. So it doesn't always matter that much, but it's, the player will look at him and goes, okay, this guy won. This is what he had to do it. So it gives him more credibility. And isn't it funny how too, like with goaltenders end up being real good broadcasters. It's like all kinds of gold. JD, we had Kelly Rudy. We did a full change podcast with yesterday. He was fantastic. Talked a lot, but he didn't start playing hockey until he was like 12 years old. Kelly Rudy had a great career as a goaltender. Became famous for the bandana. You tear up an old blue T-shirt and get the bandana. He wore it. It didn't wear it to be cool either. He wore it because he wore contact lenses and it kept the sweat out of his eyes. So he's a good guy. We spoke, and he was interesting yesterday too. And this has been the thing with our Full Change podcast. A lot of times it's just about hockey and the guys but it's also, we've had quite a few times where guys have gone through mental health issues. 4 guys have tried to commit suicide. And Kelly was really open yesterday about talking about, anxiety, whatever, but he had to get help for it. And still deals with it. And he was great to talk about it publicly. He wants other people to listen, if you've got a mental health issue, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just, there's just one issue. It doesn't mean you're this terrible person. That means you get the one issue, get help. Same thing if you break your arm, you go to the doctor, it gets fixed, and you're healed. JD, what is JD, Nancy? What is JD up to? Miss him. So JD's back to Columbus. So his old job, basically the same job he's doing with the Rangers as president. Didn't miss a beat. I think it wasn't even a month, I think, before he got hired on again by Columbus. I think he was disappointed in JD. Well, I know it was disappointed in JD. The Ranger job is, he was a Ranger as a player. He's a Ranger as a broadcaster for a long time. He's president of St. Louis. He's president of Columbus. And when listen, Columbus is a great place. St. Louis is a great place, but you're a president of a professional sports team in the city of New York. That's a whole different thing, right? Especially when you've been a player there. And JD handles himself so well too, like speaking in public, being the face of the franchise. So, but JD was fine. I talked to him after he got fired, and that's business. He didn't like it, but that's business. That's the business world, and just move on. And besides, he's making $5 million a year too, so that kind of helped a little bit. So, don't be bad mouthing Jackie DiPiazza because of Larry Melnick. Can Jackie get her act together? Oh, Ira, no, nay. We don't speak to Jackie don't speak at Jackie like that. Nope. Did the Zamboni driver quit? Oh, Larry Melnick. Here's a good question. Al Trowig. I saw him the Garden is very quiet about this, so I want to be careful too and not say something I shouldn't. I felt like it was a health issue. I saw him leaving the Garden one time. I don't know any details about it, but it was. I believe that's what it was. But again, I don't believe the Garden has ever made any statement, nor has he about what his status is. But he was good at his job. He was funny when he first came to the Rangers. So he was a little cocky. He was confident, and he was in the back lounge before the game, and we're all sitting in there, and we had a big thing of coffee, big brown jug, and then we had the styrofoam cups. So I had gotten a pen and put a hole in the first cup that was in the stack, and then I'd gone and I'd done it like it was like skip 2, then do the next one, and we skip 3, do the next one. The idea is like you figure, okay, don't take the next one because. So he happened to grab the first cup and get us a cup of coffee. So we stand there talking to us. And again, he's being a little cocky. And then all of a sudden the coffee starts dripping down his arm. So he thinks oh yeah, you guys are funny. So he goes, and it just worked out perfect where he put 2 cups to the side and grabbed like the third cup, which I happened to put a hole into. And so he figures he's got the whole thing solved now. And he comes back, starts talking to us, and there's the coffee falling down his arm again. So it was pretty funny. But he's good at his job. He was good. Let me see. JD shot me. Let me see here. JD shocked me, becoming a Western Canadian who played with Nystrom and Calgary Juniors and loved fighters, and yet with the Rangers, no toughness. As far as the team. The team that he's running now, or had been running with the Rangers, well, a different time, though. I mean, okay, so first of all, different time. And they're in a different development. Like JD knew that the team needed to be tougher, and not just fighting tougher, need to be a tougher team, better hitting. But they had a ton of young players, and they were with the team. And the players, it's not doing the young players any good to be sitting in the press box, so they had to play. And the younger players now, I mean, you don't draft players to be tough guys now. It's rare that happens. Like there isn't too many Tom Wilsons out there or Ryan Reeves that can play and are still physical top players. So the Rangers have a bunch, and nothing wrong with this. The Rangers have built this fast young team, and they needed their development stage was they needed to let these players play. So if you have a bunch of tough guys now on the team, that's how many tough guys you've got. There's 4 of them. That's 4 young guys that wouldn't be getting ice time. So JD knew that, and they knew that at some point. Now, unfortunately for them, the Trouba hit, Matt Martin with the Trouba hit, knocked him out, and then the whole Tom Wilson scene with the Panarin and everything. I mean that, yeah, you were hoping that's not going to happen. So it did. And listen, Mr. Dolan knows exactly what the Ranger fans want, and he doesn't want to see his team get picked up because he knows how the Ranger fans are, and he made a business decision. I mean, listen, the team's Chris Drury's done a fantastic job. I love what he's done. His moves. The coach he hired, everything. So. That's like I said, JD wasn't happy about it, but that he knows that's the business. And where it goes. Larry Melnick. Oh God, yeah. I remember. I forgot about that, but when I watched the film, yeah, he chased him down the ice, and I go, Larry, what are you doing? Because the time I think we pretty much we knew that Brown was probably the toughest guy in the league at the time. So then once the fight starts, and you can tell with Larry. He was just saying, screw it, I'm going to throw bombs. I know I could get hurt here because Brown has hurt people in the past, but screw it. He's just standing back and letting him rip. And he started hitting Brown, and Brown started, his knees were buckling a little bit. I was like, oh my God. But it was no surprise because the other people, like Chris Nyland, they had a good fight. And he gave it to Nyland in that fight too. So, and Larry had that thing about him where he was just stubborn, man. He wasn't backing down from anything. No, he was good. It is funny, you get to know him now, right? With how he's hilarious, but he's got that grouchy thing going on. Let me see. Why is GD the only player the Islanders give credit for beating him in 1979? Well, it wasn't a one-man show, but JD was unbelievable. Yeah. I guess the Islanders were on their way up, and everybody expected them to do a lot better. I think the Islander players I talked to are very respectful. I mean, I remember we had Clark Gillies on the show, and the '84 series where we lost when Kenny Morrow scored the winning goal in overtime in Game 5. Clark said that was their 5th time they'd gone to the finals, but ultimately lost to Edmonton. And he said that, and we didn't ask him anything, but he said they felt that if we'd won that series, that we could have gone and won the Stanley Cup. That's how good we are. It's funny. I watched the overtime period. It was on yesterday on YouTube. And man, that was unbelievable. Man, it was up and down. That was great. It was a great series. Great game to be a part of. I mean, unfortunately lost, but that was a good series. We should have actually won that series in Game 4 back at the Garden. We had them 2-1. But that was the thing with the Islanders. They would always find a way to win. It wasn't just us. I mean, I remember they were down in Pittsburgh in series, and they came back. Big goal by John Tonelli. He bounced over Randy Carlyle's stick. He went back to get it. Again, they would find a way to win, and you'd say to themselves at first, they're lucky. But when you do it for what they have 19 playoff series in a row that they won, that's a lot of luck, right? It's like I think it's just a credit to management for like putting a team together. Like Herb Brooksman said, like if he looked at our team like we were a window in a church where there's all the pieces come together to make the whole window. That's how he said it, but that's what it is. Like Herb's saying, and he said, I don't want the best players, I want the right players. You don't need. That's kind of again, I think the Rangers would be fine, but that's kind of the thing. Like with the Islanders, they had Billy Carroll. I played against him in junior, and so he was their fourth line and a good player. Don't get me wrong, but you don't say to yourself, wow, he was fantastic. He was the kind of player that he realized he was only going to get 5, 6, 7 minutes a game. That was his job, and he needed to make the most of those 5 or 6, 7 minutes, and he understood that. Then it's tough sometimes. Other guys, like if you've got too talented, like an all-star team doesn't win because those fourth line guys that aren't getting many minutes are used to being first line guys. So I think that was part of the reason the Islanders were so good. Yeah. Always we need tough guys in hockey. Well, I would argue that, like even the tough guys now, even the limited ones that are there, it's a whole different level of toughness. Like if you go back and watch hockey back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, I mean, it was, it was mayhem. It was, and the fighting was a strategy. Intimidation was a strategy. And we would do it was a whole different thing. And that's not any disrespect to the players now. I mean, but when I see guys fighting with a mask on, and that's just it. When masks first started coming out, it was like good. The players wouldn't fight with a mask on because it made it look like you got a shield on your face and you're getting in a fight. Well, it's me. I know it sounds kind of barbaric, but yeah, you want to expose yourself. So the other guy's exposed, so you just stand back and rip them. So yeah. Let me see here. What do we got? If the Rangers Brooks clubs had better goaltending, they might have won. I loved Hanlon and Meal, but they were not great goalies. Well, yeah, Billy Smith will go down as one of the best playoff goalies of all time. He has to be in that category because the team wins 4 in a row and he was the goaltender. But I don't know. I mean, Glenn Hanlon was one of the best teammates I ever had. Okay, yeah, was he to that level? Maybe not. But if you go back and watch that series, that 84 series, I mean, goaltending was not the difference by any stand. Like I said, we had a great team, but the Islanders just knew how to win. And again, it's like you look at that series where Ken Morrow scored. It's one bounce of the puck. And listen, I was out there too. Like I was out there against Bossy. Had the puck was coming to me. I said, I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm just going to slide it away. It goes off a skate and he goes in and scores. So I could say, well, Tom, if you hadn't made that mistake, but even then I go, well, I probably wouldn't change it because it's my job to get rid of the puck there. So I thought I did the right thing. It was a bad bounce. That's the game of hockey. And again, they weren't lucky because when they had those opportunities, like when Bossy had that opportunity, he scored on it too. So there's lots of times you get opportunities. But watching that, if you go back and watch that, just the overtime alone in that Game 5, wow, that was fantastic. And I would say, listen, I was really proud of our team. I thought we were as good and played as hard as they did. Just it was that bad bounce again. So let me see. Well, here's a good point. We need grit. Would have liked. Listen, I think it's the team. Yes, grit is going to win, but that's not the way the Rangers are really designed. Though you think about it, they're designed to have a fantastic goaltender, which they do, and he has to play his game to his level, and then they're designed to go and skate. That's the way Gerard Gallant coaches. That's the way Chris Drury obviously wants the team to be because he hired Gerard Gallant as the coach. Like someone like me, would I like to see more grit? Well, yeah, but that's me. It's bottom line is they can win with this team. They just have to play their game. That's with every team, whatever style of game you want to play. the players have to go out and play. The goaltender's got to stop the pucks. The defense has got to get the puck up to the forwards. Forwards got to score goals. Coach has to coach. Everybody does the job. So, I mean, this team's good enough to win. There's no question. The Ranger team is good enough to win. So they've got to do the job. So, well, okay. Here's the thing. Sorry, I meant talking fights. We need some physical players and a guy like Kreider. But again, that's not how they're designed, right? You probably wrote that before I made that statement. But and here's the thing with Kreider too, and this happens with a lot of players, especially players in their home city. Like somebody else in the league might see Kreider and go, "Wow, he's a great player," and he is a great player. But what happens is when he's on your team, and you watch him all the time, you're expecting more from him. You're always going to, and most players are like that. Like you want more from him all the time. So I would rather say, let's look at all the good things he does. He's an incredible leader, total professional, can skate like the wind. Listen, would you always like him to get 50 plus goals every year? Yeah, sure you would, and he showed he can do it. But if he's a 30 goal scorer, 35 goal scorer, that's still pretty good, right? You still take him. Problem is now when he scored 50, you want it all the time, and I get it. I totally understand. Yes, here's a good. That's right. So when you go to playoffs, playoffs are a different brand of hockey. If you want to win, it's that mental toughness to say you don't have to be going in and fighting and running over everybody, but you can't let yourself be intimidated by physical play. That's the difference. Even going back to it, you look at a guy who's a friend of mine now, John Tonelli, played with him in Los Angeles. You figure he was, when he played, he wasn't going to fight, and he knew he wasn't going to fight. And you can try to intimidate him all you want. It wasn't going to happen. He would not stop going. So after a while, you think, well, it's pointless. I'm still going to hit him, but he's not going to stop. But I still have to hit him. And we joked around because we became very good friends playing in LA, and we hated each other. We would, because Herb Brooks particularly would play me against him and Nystrom, and to kind of counter their physical play, and their coach was fine with that too. So we used to the cross checking and the spearing and everything, and then ended up being like best buddies and everything. I love the guy now. He's a total respect for him. And, he's good. A great career. So yeah, I mean, to win, you're right. Trennan with Simmons. See, the thing is, you can't have a bunch of players that play like the Rangers are playing. They're up and running, going team. They're not a grinding team. They're a fast-paced team. So then get to one player, it isn't going to change unless it's a super heavyweight guy that makes everybody play braver. Simmons, I love him, plays hard, but I just don't think one guy like that comes in, like changes the way everybody else plays. And then he's only one guy. So again, it's not the makeup of this team. That's not how I see the Rangers. There's nothing wrong with that. They're a run and gun team. Great goaltender, run and gun team, get the puck up. Defenseman designed to get the puck up. Trouba does his hitting. That's his thing. And Lindgren plays hard. Again, smaller guy, love to see him bigger, but he's got a fantastic heart. So that's the way he goes. So I do agree with this one. I think Glenn even says this. They get carried away sometimes passing because they're good at it. But yeah, especially when things aren't going well, you got to shoot the puck, throw it to the net, crash the net. Let me see here. Let's see. I knew Kreider would be back to his 55, 60 points. He's not consistent when he was drafted. He said he was a guy without a constant motor. Yeah, again, I get it, but that's we covered that. Where I see where fans could get frustrated with him because you see how much he can do, and when he doesn't do it, then you're like, what's wrong? But at the same time, I prefer to look at what are the good things he's doing for the team, and I mean, I like him as a player, and I've gotten to know him. Not like we're best buddies, but I've gotten to know him and his work ethic and his professionalism and everything. And that's a big thing too, especially when you get young players. Like he'll show the young kids how to work hard, how to train, how to take care of yourself. So yeah. What you need is guys who have to stand up for themselves. Well, yeah, but again, the fighting part of it, like these guys, like Lafreniere came up, he'd never gotten a fight before in his life when he first got to the NHL and finally did get in a fight. So these guys aren't coming up. Rarely now are these kids coming up now being the reputation of being a tough guy. So it's not as much as standing up for yourself in today's game. Again, it's more do not let the other team intimidate you physically, psychologically. Continue to do your job no matter what they do to you. That's the key to it. The fighting now is pointless. Like this whole thing, like again, there used to be a purpose to fighting. There's a strategy. There's an intimidation. That's not the game now. So, and especially with this Rangers team, is not designed to be that kind of team. They are designed to go. Say say to Shesterkin, hey, we'll see you later. We're going up and score goals. You better stop all the pucks. That's the game. The game has changed entirely, and that's the way the Rangers are designed. When they're going, then they're Stanley Cup contending team. There's no question about it. So, let's see, yeah. Kreider is like Brian McLellan, a great package, and then where are the numbers? Well, he scored 53 last year, so it's pretty good. Again, there's not many players that are going to score 50 goals every year. So it can't be like a curse when you do score 50 goals to say to anybody. I get it why people want to have to do it every year. And his personality is his personality. He's not going to change who he is. Right. This is the Chris Kreider that we have here is the Chris Kreider that's been on his team. He's the Chris Kreider that's played some great hockey for the Rangers. So I would rather like, okay, I know there's some inconsistencies. Everybody does. There's no perfect hockey player. But I look at all the good things he does for the team, and I think he's a hell of a hockey player, an important part of the team. So let me see. Player development was abandoned after the second lockout. Say there Christo Rasmussen is now with Montreal. Courtney, and would you consider a position of player development? I don't. You're saying the Rangers don't do player development now? You know what? I don't know that as a fact. I would love to do player development. Yeah, the psychological part of the game now. I've learned much more about it, and would love to. I didn't. Again, I just am not aware that they don't have player development at all. You may be totally correct there, Danny, but. Otherwise, other teams will abuse. Well, so if there's the team doesn't stand up, so that's correct. So if you show the teams that you are not going to fight through their intimidation, and whatever way you do that, then yeah, they'll continue to do it because they'll see that it works. I don't think the Rangers are in that category. I don't see them changing their game because of physical play. Do the nights where they don't play well? Absolutely, but I don't think it's because other teams are being physical against them. The game's just not that way. Yeah. So, okay, kudos, Tom. Taco's finally showing something on a forward break. Yeah, again, there's no guarantee with these young players at all, and you don't know. If you go watch them, the skill level is incredible, but it's what's between the ears you can't see, right? And it's different in junior hockey. Pro hockey is a whole different thing. You come in, you're 18 years old, you're playing against men that are 30, 35, 40 years old. It's a whole, you're playing in front of big crowds, lots of money. So it's a whole, how do players adapt to that? The whole lifestyle of an NHL hockey player. And some players take, like we've talked, it takes longer than others play. Like, again, the Austin Matthews and the Connor McDavid's coming in at 18 years old and not only playing well on the ice, but handling all the other stuff off the ice. And I mean this in a very good way. That's freakish. As an 18-year-old. So when that happens, I think other people think, okay, these guys at 18, 19, 20 are supposed to get it right away. I didn't turn pro till I 21 when I first signed my contract, which was until I was 22. The next season I actually played in the NHL. And I needed that time. I wasn't mature enough to come play until I was at that age. So, you just never know with these players. They've clearly scouted him. His skill level, his talent package is incredible. But how quickly he develops mentally, there are tests that they do, these psychological testing they do, so you can get some trends, whatever. But you really don't know. It's and again, we had Kelly Reedy. He was talking a lot about how when he came up with the Islanders when they were in the middle of winning their cups, and how the older guys would really take care of them, like the Bob Nyshoms of the world. Like, hey, come on, you're coming with us, guy, and let's go get a beer and some pizza, and. So, what kind of guys do you have around on the team? Let me see here. What was that? How about it? Booted. Canadian accent. When I do player development in any organization, if a team came to me and wanted me to do it, that'd be pretty cool. Actually, I never really thought about it, but yeah, I'm really into that stuff. I've got, like I've mentioned, you guys, I've had a few families now hire me to help their young, anywhere like 15-year-old boys to, men in their early 20s suffering from depression, anxiety, lack of confidence. And it's interesting, working with them and get success. It kind of makes you feel like hey, this is, because I've learned a lot, like doing all these shows, the pandemics, doing all the subconscious mind and all that stuff. Let me see. Yeah. Tell me you were that Dave Semenko in his book wrote that Nick Fucci and I are such good friends that I would never fight him. I was shocked when I read that. Yeah, I didn't know he said that, but yeah, when they're heavyweight guys like that, yeah, it's kind of, again, we had Robert Picard, we did a podcast with him yesterday too, and he talked about how he rented his house to Chris Nyland. He owned a house in Montreal, Chris Nyland rented it, and they fought a couple of times. He's the man. So, I mean, it's, yeah, it's a little bit, because I was a little bit surprised now that I think about it, because there's a lot of times, especially back then, where, yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was a barbaric league, and we do things to each other to try to win. But we all kind of just understood that, listen, you're trying to win. I mean, you didn't want to do something to somebody you're trying to hurt them. But, if you got a chance to hit them good. I remember I hit Lanny McDonald in the Garden when I total respect for Lanny McDonald, watching him play with the Leafs. I grew up in that area with Toronto. And I hit him. Oh, God. Yeah, his dad, one of the hardest hits I ever had. It's actually knocked the wind out of me. And I felt terrible about it because this is an older guy. I respected him so much. But that was the game. I had to do it if it was there. And he totally understood too. I think I said to him after the game, I said, "Lan, I didn't mean to hit you like that." He said, "No, I had my head down. You did what you're supposed to do." So, yeah. Let me see how. See, Susan coming in with the facts, coming in hard. When the Rangers were on an 8-game winning streak, everything was rosy and a few complaints. Now, after playing shorthanded for 2 weeks, they've been crucified there still. Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate. Yeah, I mean, they had the roster has not been the roster they need because of the salary cap issue, right? To get Kane in here. So, yeah, the Rangers are fine. Listen, this is the nature of pro sports, especially when the Rangers are still a fairly young team, too, where young players are going to have inconsistencies in their game. Yeah, Susan's right. Listen, once they get going, if they get going in the right direction, the Rangers, yeah, are one of the top 4, 5, 6 teams in the league. I mean, Tampa's still got to be there. Colorado's in there. Carolina's playing great. Toronto made a lot of good changes. New Jersey now has gotten better and better. So, but the Rangers are right there with everybody else. They'll be fine. I mean, look at that talent level. And guys that are experienced, winners, character players. Like, I don't see any troublemakers out there or people that aren't competitors. And again, so much of this team is designed to be clear. It's great goaltending. They have that, but he has to play his great goaltending game. And then the rest of it is go. Take the puck and go and try to score as many goals as possible. That's how they play the game. I mean, people talk all the time about the great chances they give up in their own end more than anybody. I think the stats are more than anybody else in the league, but they've made a decision about how they're going to play the game, how they want the game coached. They hired a coach for a specific purpose, and it's up to the players. Like, coaches get way too much credit when the team wins, and they get way too much blame when the team loses. Players got to go play. Now, the coach has to put the right guys on at the right time. He has to manage egos, all that kind of stuff. There's no question. But yeah, they play, and if they don't win because they don't play well, that's not on the coach. This is the National Hockey League, and these are professional players. Again, he has to push the right buttons. Does he have to change the lineup around a little bit? Does he have to sit players out? Yes, all that stuff. But the other day, you can't sit everybody out. If a bunch of guys aren't playing well, you usually can't sit all those players. You have to play your top players. So there's only so much a coach can do. It's up to the players to decide that they want to play. Like last year, I thought it was fantastic. Right? I think Lindgren was out for all of those early games. They were struggling against Pittsburgh. Now he comes back in the lineup and gives them a spark, and they played totally different hockey. Now Shesterkin played better hockey as well. He had a rough couple of games there early in the playoffs, but he came back and played, and that's it. So it wasn't what the coach did. Like, the coach didn't make Shesterkin play better. Shesterkin played better because he played better. And again, that's going to be one of the keys for this team. He's that good of a player. He got good of a goaltender. So, where's my chicken? Tom, is Cisco's now better than they were when he played? I wouldn't say they are. They're more specific in their jobs, I'd say. Like they've got, there's a goaltending coach. Now, we did not have a goaltending coach. I think maybe they started having a guy come in, but there's no specific goaltending coach. There's no skills coach. They have all those things now. So again, I think they're more specific. I wouldn't say they're better. I don't think that's the one thing I don't like. Coaching's changed, so I don't think you could say it's better or worse. There's more managing egos now. There was before when I played, but it's more, the head coach has to really kind of oversee the whole thing. Like, these are specific coaches, and again, and I say ego, I don't mean that in a bad way, these people, these NHL players got here are proud men. They're type A personalities. Usually they're proud of themselves. They've worked hard to get here. They want to leave a legacy, making lots of money. Fans expect expectations from the fans. So, it's more making sure that showing all the players that he cares about their career inside of the big picture of the team winning. And that's not always an easy job. There's a lot of individual meetings, make sure guys get played in certain situations. Let me see. Oh, yes, new engine's working good. Thank you. Oh, yeah, going to Costco. Yes, I had to do the Instacart. I did the one time walking to Costco. Man, I was good carrying that bag back, and then I used Instacart a couple of times back at Costco, seeing my people, the peeps. Back to Costco. Yeah, the engine's running good though. Carol Vedney taught you how to smoke cigars and cross-check as Herb's assistant. He didn't teach me how to smoke cigars, but he taught me how to cross-check. Whew, man, Dad was a vicious hockey player. I don't know, like he was tough. You played against him, and he'd tell me, Tom, you go to the front of the net, somebody comes to the front of your net, you do anything you want. And he did it too. I watched the old videos of him playing. He was nasty out there. Oh, like he was vicious. He made sure that, guys came to the front of the net, they remembered it, and they didn't want to come back again. Yeah. Where Red Shaky Jack guys in Ted Sater? Different, right? Reg Higgs, I really liked him a lot. Actually, I thought he was a very good coach, good person, more like, and he was really good to me too. He was coaching more defense. I'll never forget one time we're playing in Montreal, and can't remember who it was coming down, and I was kind of like the prime of my career. And so the guy's coming down in one-on-one, and I angled him off perfectly. So it's, he actually took himself offside because he knew I was going to smash him with the boards. And I never forget, because Reg Higgs was right by our bench, and he's up on the bench, and he's going, unbelievable, Tommy. That's because, it was that small little thing that most other people probably didn't even notice, but that he really appreciated those kinds of things in the game. So I liked him. I think more because he treated me. Well, Jack Birch, a couple instances. I told that story. It was Jack Birch who I put the baby powder in the hairdryer before the game, and he's the coach that turned on the hairdryer. He had contact lenses and everything, so he wasn't too happy with me after that. He felt like I did it on purpose too, and I didn't. I'd like to tell you I did, because it ended up being very funny. And then we had another time where things were going well, and I put my big mouth out there too, where we had our team meals day of the game, and back then they gave us, I don't know, it was like $75 a day as meal money or whatever, and we were required to put in a certain amount of money for our meal at the hotel. Pre-game meal, okay, that's fine, okay, it's our meal, we're paying for it. But the coaches didn't have to do that. But so Jack would come in and have a free meal off all the players. So the players were paying for the coaches' lunch. So the guys were complaining about it. So I said something to Jack. I could have been a lot more discreet. I said it in front of everybody. I said, hey, Jack, hope you're enjoying that lunch that we bought you. And he went back and told Teddy Sater, and Teddy called me in the office. And so, Jack and I didn't get along as well. But it doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It's just that, we've talked a lot about that coaching staff. But Reg again, he was more my kind of guy. So, yeah. No, Danny. No, nay. No hot dogs. Terrible. If people knew how bad hot dogs were for you, just like I said, grind it up, put it in a blender. You'll get a syringe, shoot it into your veins to clog it all up, and just get to the hospital before you have a heart attack. It's the same way. Just have that with a hot dog. It's worse than smoking cigarettes. Let me see. Who wins a race between you and Kotze? Kotze, I'll tell you, Kotze was a good player. He's a big man, so I may have won the skating race a little bit, but it wasn't like I was a speedster compared to him. But Kotze could shoot the puck, man. He could pass the puck. He was a competitor, tough. He had a good career. Kotze would get himself in trouble sometimes. But let me see here. Love the skates with the fast replacement blades. Yes. Yeah, that's interesting. That's certainly something we did not have. We'd have to take the skates off, let them get them sharpened and everything. You'd probably miss 10 minutes if you ever did some of your skates. So yes, the equipment has come a long way. Equipment has changed. Let me see here. Tom, you're watching Auto Restoration. Are you watching Auto Restoration? Derek Vice Grip takes cars that haven't run for 50 years and a day hasn't running. Oh, well, hey, very cool. I'll tell you, that's one thing I wish I knew more about those cars. Actually, a young guy I'm helping is trained to be a mechanic. So it's pretty cool. God, this is terrible. It's jumping on Kotze today. Kotze will beat Tom to the buffet. Well, probably a different buffet. I don't think I eat the same buffet that we wouldn't eat the same kind of foods. I don't think, but we won't get into that. Um, uh, Tom, Tom, do you collect memorabilia? No, I do not. Actually, luckily, my parents collect a lot of stuff. I wouldn't have thought, and I'm very glad they did. I should have collected more stuff, but they collect a lot of stuff for me, a lot of newspaper articles and awards and stuff like that. So, but I don't know. I listen. If there's some trophy out there with your picture on it, I'm buying it. I mean, some autographed, M&M candy bar or something like that. Let me see. Yeah, now this comes back. Susan, going to be a rough week for the Islanders fans. Need to root for the Rangers versus Buffalo. Oh yes, the Islanders are getting close to not making the playoffs again, right? And maybe Pittsburgh too, right? That was an adventure right there. So growing up on the farm, we had a dairy farm. So the big trucks would come from the dairy to take our milk back, and they buy it from us. That's how we made money. And so I drove trucks all the time, like pickup trucks and everything, but not the big semi trucks with the air brakes and all that kind of stuff. So so the Rangers had started a program where they would pay for us to go to school during the summer, thinking you're going to go to like business schools or whatever. So I was in New York for the summer, looking at the back of a newspaper. I think it was the New York Post, and I'll never forget, Superior Truck Driving School. So I thought I got nothing else going on. It's early in the summer. And so I called the Rangers up. I said, I'm going to use that program that you guys have out there for going to school. They said, what are you going to do? I'm going to go to truck driving school. So for 3 weeks up in the mountains up in Pennsylvania, I think we were. And it was a blast. It was pretty cool. It was funny because it was like everybody that had tried every other job on the planet and couldn't do it now wanted to become truck drivers. And they're all there at the school. And so week one, we're in the classroom, learning all the rules and laws and everything. Week two, we're out in the yard, backing up and hooking it up and unhooking it. And then week three, now we're out on the road driving. So there'd be one person driving. The teacher would be the passenger side, and the two guys would be in the back of the cab. They'd be taking turns during the day. We'd be out all day driving. And in our truck, we had a guy who was a New York City cab driver who couldn't speak very good English and would never stop at stop signs. He just wanted to roll through them. That's what he's used to doing in the city. But you got a big, 18-wheeler. And the instructor was patient at first and said, no, you have to stop. He's trying to explain. And the guy just would not. He didn't get it. He wouldn't stop. So finally, the instructor got so mad, he had him stop the truck. And he threw him out of the truck and left him on the side of the road out in the country. We can't leave him out there. He said, no, that's it. I'm not going to ride this guy anymore. So I don't know. They went back and got him or something. They got somebody to get him. But so that was it. I just want to learn how to drive a truck. Never did it with it. I came back and actually got my license, but never drove a truck. It was a blast. It's I've been fortunate in my life. I don't know where it came from, but I've always I don't have a bucket list. Like I don't sit around and say that geez, it's something I still want to do. If I wanted to do something, I want to go on Survivor. I want to Survivor. I want to drive a truck. I want to have a motorcycle. Have a motorcycle. I wanted to have a motorhome. Get a boat. All the things I wanted to do. I've done, and I don't know where that came from. That ability, because it started when I was young. So, all right. Did you ever make up with Lane? Yeah. Well, you're stirring the pot, Susan. You're terrible. So Elaine and I were on Survivor together. For people that don't know, and Elaine and I became very good friends. She's a farmer, and I was a farmer, and all that. I saved her bacon actually in the first. She was going to get voted off first overall. I made sure she didn't. She doesn't want to acknowledge that. So now she was getting married during the summer after we were on Survivor, and her fiance wanted me to make a speech at the wedding, and I had planned on going. I had the ticket and everything. I didn't. It was during the pandemic, and I did not realize that if it was it was in Kentucky. So Kentucky was one of those states that if I came back to Connecticut or the tri-state area, I think it was, that I would have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Now I couldn't do that because I was out, going to the gym and all that kinds of stuff. I did not know that until about 3 or 4 days before the wedding. So I had to call the last minute and say that I wasn't going to be there. She thought that I was pulling her leg, that I was never going to come at all, that I was just saying that all along. And it wasn't the truth, but I could see where she was mad. And she got really mad. Like she was really disappointed to go. And I felt terrible, but there's just nothing I could do. But yes, she was not too happy. We did a couple of shows after. Oh, she was attacking me. She was not too happy. Was I surprised with the Jonathan Quick trade? Let me see. Where's that question? Oh, hold on. It's up here. Was I surprised about? Well, Quick's game is, he had a fantastic career, but he's on the back end of his career. Goaltending has not been very good for the Kings from what I understand. And they brought in somebody else, didn't they? They brought in another goaltender. So it wasn't that, so I'm assuming he's going to go to Vegas as kind of backup guy. So he get traded to Columbus first, right? And then the next day to Vegas. I think that's how it went. So, yeah, because there's no way. I don't know if the Kings knew about that second trade, because I don't think they'd wanted to trade him to Vegas to help them. But maybe they did a three-way trade, because normally, like, if they did something like that, if Columbus did something like that, intentionally to kind of hurt the Kings, that now you're not going to be able to trade with the Kings very much. So I don't think they would have done something like that intentionally. But see how. She even had your own private outhouse. That's right. Who sent her? Somebody sent her a Laidlaw thing. Did you send it? I can't remember who it was. So she put it on the outhouse. She was not happy. Oh, Danny. I was married when I was out in LA. Did you ever hook up with any celebrities in LA? If you're talking like female celebrities, we had, again, Kelly Rudy and I were talking on the podcast yesterday. We had a ton of celebrities. Once Wayne got there, Wayne Gretzky, then the locker room after the game was just packed. So even before the game, sometimes just Sylvester Stallone would come in before the games. So yeah, it was, at first it was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And after a while, it's like, oh, geez, enough's enough. Like, get out of the way. And they're having fun at the game too. I remember John Candy, God rest his soul. He come in, and most of the time he was hammered. So you stand beside him at the urinal, and he's a big man anyways. And he's, hey, Tom, a good game tonight. So that was funny stuff. They were good. It was a different world, that's for sure. It was, I'd been in New York, obviously, playing, so you're somewhat more used to that whole kind of lifestyle. But yeah, then I was in LA for a year and a half before Wayne got there, and then to see the change, it was pretty good. Yeah. Let me see here. How did they play smaller rinks? Oh, well, for me, the way I played, loved it. Yeah, smaller rinks. Oh, well, the one bet that I should be careful when I say that, the smaller neutral zone too. Like for a fast team, they're on top of you much quicker. So you're backing in now, and you're giving them a much better opportunity. So you really had to adjust that way. So Goldie Hawn was checking Tom out. Absolutely. Yeah, right. Oh, that's funny. Let me see here. Susan Brooks. Hypothetical. You're starting a team. Do you take McDavid, Matthews, or Connor Bedard? Well, Can I put Shesterkin? I was going to say put Shesterkin in the category, obviously. So your question. Well, McDavid's unbelievable. I'm not like Matthews. I'm not denying his talent level, but I wonder, like I've watched lately where he's getting pushed around and he's not overreacting. He's waiting for his teammates to come in and like fight his battles. He's a big man. Like I'm not expecting you to drop your gloves all the time, but don't step away and then your teammates have to come in and fight your fights for you. So I'm, I guess it's not a huge thing. It's again, like we talked before the game's changed, but it's got to be Connor McDavid. What I hear about this Bedard, they think he could be better than McDavid if that's possible. But again, he hasn't played in the NHL yet. So, and McDavid's really shown himself. We did a similar thing. Kevin Allen did a thing. Oh God, it must have been 7, 8, 10 years ago. I can't remember what it was, where he picked 4 of us. Yeah, it was the Rangers and 4 people. And we had to be general managers. So I was the general manager for the Rangers. So we had a draft of all the players. And I'll never forget Doug McLean, who had been in Columbus. He was working on TNT or someplace up in Canada or whatever. And he said, I'll take Connor McDavid, and we'll just win all the time. They've never won. So now I'm not blaming McDavid for that. But to just say, you get Connor McDavid, you're going to win all the time. You have to make sure you got a good team around him. And but I think he's just so dominant a player. Of those 3 guys, it's funny. It's hard to say that you wouldn't take one of those guys. I know I'm just more of a, again, you got to make sure that you've got enough around them of the right kind of players. Because like, okay, so he's a specific player. He's a highly skilled, fast player. Can score goals on his own, all that stuff. But again, you got to make sure you've got goaltending around him and all that. But I think Susan knows that. But so I'd have to take McDavid. Yeah. Let's see. Would I go back for another season of Survivor? Absolutely. That was a blast. Loved it. Yeah. It was just that experience. Like, when they drop you off on the island the first time and you're thinking, okay, this is it. You're playing. Like you got a pot. We had a machete, we had a knife, and we had a saw and a bag of rice. And that was it. Now, again, we weren't left out there alone. The camera crews were out there, so it wasn't like we were in danger. But as far as like surviving, building your camp, getting to know everybody, playing the game, doing the challenges, the tribal councils were blast too, because you've gone there And if you're kind of like one of the people in charge and leading things, so you know who's going to get voted out. You think you do, anyways, and then maybe you don't. You know, it's a blind side or whatever. So it was blast. We had a blind side first vote that I put together. Well, I think it helped me that I was that older guy, so the younger people said it later. Well, like, you know, Tom's like the leader out there, so and that wore off after a while. But so it's fun because you have to get people to agree within 3 days, getting to know each other, to agree that, okay, we're going to tell two people we're going to vote one of them or somebody else out, and then we're going after one of those two people. That was how it happened with us. So it was fun to pull that off. But it was a blast playing. You know, the chances of winning are really 1 in 20. You know, there's 20 people playing the game. And to me, there's obviously strategy, but a lot of it is trying to keep your head down so they don't come after you, or trying to make sure that you create a target with somebody else so they don't come after you. It's all about not getting yourself voted off. You do think about down the road a little bit, but especially like I get voted off before the merge. Once we have the merge, then it's all individual stuff. So we're kind of playing as a team, and I wanted to win every challenge. I don't think it was really that was the target of a lot of players. It was more, I think a lot of players even wanted to lose so you could vote somebody off. Like that. Like I said, there's many different ways of playing, but that was a blast. Good thing there are no gondolas, gazebos. Yeah, you're right. I almost did it again the other day. I was looking at the phone. It wasn't dark this time, so I didn't hit the gazebo, the gondola. It is gazebo, right? Yeah, it's gazebo. Well, Crosby was fighting his own battles early on in his career. He may have done, but he actually got more. Again, I gotta be careful too, because you really don't want Austin Matthews fighting, but you can't just like back away. Like you kind of start a scrum and back away. Even Bobby Clark kind of had that reputation for that Philly, but he wouldn't back away. He still didn't fight. He just had other people come in and really, finish the fight. So, all right, guys, we've got an hour and 16 minutes here. Man, I can babble, can I? Great job. Good seeing everybody again. Nothing tomorrow. So we'll be back on Monday morning with Mark Pottenvink. Again, please, our Full Change podcast is out there. I'm very proud of it. Some great stories. I'm really excited about the stories of players in all ways. But again, we've got some fantastic stories of guys that maybe have struggled with mental health issues, are out there talking about it now, helping other people. Again, we talked about the guys who unfortunately tried to commit suicide and have really fixed themselves up and are helping other people. That's the big thing I'm really proud of with all the hockey players. You see them after their careers. In most cases, they're doing something for other people out there, helping kids or people with mental health issues. So proud of it. And I'm very happy with the podcast as well. And again, our dance challenge, want to get that going. Again, it's really, there's no target on it. It's just trying to raise awareness and money for Garden of Dreams. They do a bunch of stuff for kids. And obviously, we're fortunate we get to be involved in that stuff too. So thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. It's happy hour. Talk to you later.